Hello, everybody, and welcome to FPC at GRPC 2018. That's right, the Gun Rights Policy Conference right here in Chicago, Illinois. I know, bit of an oxymoron, Chicago and gun rights, but yet here we are. In any case, please remember to like and share this video so that your friends can join in the conversation. With us, we have a special guest who's he's an author, and he's written a book specifically helping young children understand firearms and firearm safety. So with that, I'd like to welcome Mr. Yehuda Remer. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing excellent, doing excellent. You guys may want to know, I actually practiced the pronunciation multiple times to make sure to get it right because, you know, I have a talent with names.
You didn't do a bad job. You got it right, so we're good.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. That is definitely good to hear. So please do me a favor and tell us a little bit about your book.
Yeah. My book is called Safety On. It's an introduction to the world of firearms for children. And it's a book that covers every aspect of gun safety, whether it's living with guns in the home, range rules, what to do if you find a gun somewhere it's not supposed to be, making sure your guns are locked up properly, but it's all told through the eyes of a little boy rather than an adult. So it's more of a peer-to-peer conversation rather than an adult preaching to a child. You know, that's
a great concept. You know, we hear all the time from anti-gunners about the idea of, well, you know, gun safety, gun safety, gun safety. And their idea of gun safety is always finding a way to take away guns, restrict access to firearms, instead of actually teaching gun safety, in this case, to children.
Yeah, no, it's 100% true. You know, back in the 50s, even earlier, well, God, much earlier even, you know, children at young ages were taught respect for firearms. You know, no one ever went to their father or mother's cabinet and took the firearms out because they knew they would be beaten to a bloody pulp if they did. They taught a healthy respect for it. They were taught how to use it. But at the same time, you know, nowadays we don't really have that. I mean, we do have that, but that respect of firearms is not what it used to be. So my book aims to cover that, gives them a healthy respect and safety guidelines, what to do while living with firearms, not just in the home, but in life itself, because we are a nation that was built on the concept of firearms and self-defense, the Second Amendment, and it's something that kids need to understand, because if they don't, that's when accidents happen.
All right, so tell me, what inspired you to write this book?
So I had a bunch of inspirations to write the book, but what really came down to was I owned a bunch of firearms. I lived in Los Angeles. I grew up in L.A. I owned a bunch of firearms. I was already out of my house. I was married with 2 kids, and when my parents found out that I had a Glock, they didn't know about my Benelli or my Colt AR. When they found out I had a Glock, they kind of blew a gasket and freaked out, calling me irresponsible and you know, just how can I own firearms with kids in the house? And you know, I grew up in LA, so guns were also kind of like Chicago, and you just weren't allowed to have them. And it dawned on me, I'm like, well, I never grew up with guns, but I respect them. I treat them with, you know, safety. I take all. Oh God, it's been a long day. All the safety protocols. I was like, how can I relay that to my kids? So I went online, I started doing research, and I was shocked to find that besides the Eddie Eagle program, which only touches on what to do if you find a gun somewhere it's not supposed to be, there really was no real information out there. Yeah, you have pamphlets here, cutouts here, but I wanted to be able to sit down with my kids and read a book before bedtime, to cuddle up with them on the couch, to bond. And I was shocked that there was nothing like that on the market. So I set out to write a book. I wrote it in about 20 minutes on my iPhone, and I sent it to a buddy of mine in the LAPD, and he shredded it up, and you know, amazing constructive criticism. At that point, I didn't know, and I mean, I knew about guns because I owned them, but I wasn't in the gun industry, so I didn't know the proper lingo and verbiage and stuff like that. And he helped me along, and that's really how it came to be.
You know, that is phenomenal. It's, you know, but that's what they say, necessity is the mother of all invention. Yep. But that's the sort of thing that we ought to be doing. I mean, the crazy thing is that this book right here, this book, Safety On, This is a book that, quite frankly, ought to be in every public school. I mean, every kid needs to read, even if you choose for your family never to own a firearm. Your children need to know and understand and have respect for firearms.
Well, that's actually one of the most common questions I'm asked is, well, we don't care about firearms. We don't own firearms. Why should we buy your book? So my response is, it's usually the mothers. My response is, well, do you take your kids to the park? Of course. Well, when you're at the park, you look down for 15, 20 seconds to check your Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. They're like, yes. And I'm like, well, what in those 15 seconds your kid's ball goes in a bush and there happens to be a firearm there, which could happen. Mm-hmm. And, it's a deer caught in the headlights because they don't want to answer, but they know the answer.
Right.
They know that their kid will pick it up and probably pull the trigger. And that's my point, is that it doesn't make a difference you're on the right side, left side, Democrat, Republican, conservative, or liberal. Guns are a part of life, and you have to know what to do in order to stay safe with them.
And it's funny you say that because it's not just a park. I mean, going over someone's home.
Right.
I always say this. Most of the gun owners that I know, and matter of fact, the gun owners that I know are responsible gun owners. They store their firearm when it's not on their person, or they're responsible with it. They teach their children to know and understand and how to be safe with firearms and have appropriate respect and know that they're not toys. But not every gun owner is like that.
No.
And so it's important for, even if you are a non-gun owner, to teach your children respect for firearms, to teach them how to properly handle or not handle a firearm, what to do if their friend takes out a firearm, and to, mom or dad's gun, to show what to do and how to put themselves and their friends in the best situation in order to be safe.
Right.
But because it's taboo, because we don't want to talk about guns, well, then that's how accidents happen, right?
No, 100%. And that's why the subtitle of my book is it's an introduction to the world of firearms for children. It isn't a in-depth analysis of how to raise your children around firearms. It's the basics that you need to bring up the topic of firearms with your children. Think of it as the door is open. This allows you to walk through the door in terms of firearms education for children.
Well, it's also funny because, we want, I liken it to sex education. Just because you teach a youngster about, the potential consequences of having sex, sexually transmitted diseases, parenthood or pregnancy, things along those lines, doesn't mean that you are encouraging them to do that.
100%.
And the same thing is true with firearms. Just because you are teaching them about about the risks of firearm and teaching them appropriate respect and what to do in a situation doesn't mean that you are promoting them actually utilizing or playing with firearms.
100%. I mean, that's exactly what it is. My kids, if I get dressed, I mean, I know all guys do this. We'll leave our clothes on by the dining room table and drape them over the chairs and stuff like that. And if I get dressed in the morning and I'll put my Glock 43 on the table as my kids are eating cereal or yogurt, and I'm standing right there, but they don't even give it a second thought anymore. It's not. You take away that cool factor. You take away that mystique of a firearm, and now my kids have a healthy respect. I mean, they go shooting. I have a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old. My 9-year-old goes shooting with me a lot, and he loves it. And my 6-year-old, she's not ready yet, but he sees my guns. It's not even, kids in this class will ask me, like, is it true your dad has guns? And he's like, yeah. And then he's like, so what's the big deal? Like, it's not a big deal to him. He has seen he's seen what a gun could do. By going to the range. He can see the destruction it can cause. But he understands why I carry, because he understands, there are bad people in the world, and I carry to make sure that he's safe and that his mother and sister and other brother are safe. So it's just, that's what the book is there for, to teach them a healthy respect.
Well, it's funny that, here it is, and it's funny because you're the second parent that I've talked to even just today, who was approached by other parents saying, how could you be I mean, how you own guns? How can you be a responsible parent and own guns? And here it is. Your perspective is, which is the truth. You're a responsible parent. You own guns because you are a responsible parent. You recognize that you have a responsibility to defend yourself and your family. That oftentimes that law enforcement are minutes away when seconds matter.
Yes.
And as your own first responder and as a person who's accepted responsibility for defending yourself and your family, you want to make sure that you're prepared to do so. I mean, how do you deal with, and once again, being in the city of Los Angeles, I'm in Sacramento, so not much better. But how do you address parents, other parents who come at you like that?
There's no atheist in a foxhole. I mean, really. I was like, I tell them, like, well, what happens if someone breaks into your house? They're like, we'll call the police. I said, the average response time is between 11 and 15 minutes. I said, what can happen in that time? They're like, no. And they don't have anything. I mean, it's a matter of irrational fear versus common sense. Mm-hmm. If you have the common sense to understand that a firearm is there really for, your... I stopped calling guns a weapon. Mm-hmm. Because it's a self-defensive tool.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not. I mean, yes. If you're in special ops and in the military and you're going on mission, yes, it is a weapon, 100%. Mm-hmm. But to most Americans who carry a firearm or who live the Second Amendment, mm-hmm. it's a defensive tool. We're not using it.
It is a tool. It's like insurance. It's something that you hope and pray you never, ever, ever have to use.
Yes.
Yet and still, you have it.
Yeah.
And it's important for you to know and understand it. Just like it's important for you to understand your insurance. You understand what it covers, what it doesn't cover.
Right.
Know your firearm, and that comes back to the importance of training. And I keep telling people, look, it's one thing to go take a class, and you can learn about something. But ultimately, there's a difference between teaching someone something and training them. And training is making it instinctual.
Right.
Making it a response rather than something that you're thinking, right? You're reacting rather than...
a part of you.
Exactly, making it a part of you. The scripture says, what is it? Train up a child in the way they should go, and when they get old, they will not depart from it, as I like to say. That's what that means. It means when you teach them at a young age that a firearm is not a toy, it's something to be respected, because it is, in fact, it can, in fact, take a life, then they have that appropriate attitude.
Yes.
We already teach that about cars.
Right.
Right? Which is the reason why you don't see kids just hopping behind the wheel of a car and trying to start it up.
Well, forget cars. I mean, we teach, we teach our babies when they're crawling, don't touch an oven.
Right.
Or when they're a little older, don't play with the knives on the counter. I mean, everyone has a set of cooking knives on the counter, but your kids don't go near them. Why? It's the exact same scenario.
Exactly.
It's a different tool.
Exactly. So how can folks get a copy of your book?
So if they want signed copies, they can go to my website. It's thepewpewjew.com.
Put it right there.
Yeah.
By the way, I absolutely positively love that. That is the Pew Pew Jew.
Yeah,
I love that.
I have a lot of great things, like my shirt, you can see.
Gun control is not kosher.
Having a Jew wearing a pig, it's always fun. I have a lot of great stuff on my site, but if they want signed copies, they can go to thepewpewjew.com. If they just want to buy it without signed, they can go to Amazon.
Fantastic. Sir, thank you so very much. We appreciate all that you're doing. And that's one of the great things about GRPC. You get a chance to meet people who are doing all sorts of things from all different types of aspects. And it really gives you an opportunity to see the diversity of stuff. And some of the stuff you can see, and you know what? I might be able to incorporate some of that in what I'm doing where I live.
Yeah, no, it's great. I exactly. You meet people that take something from there, take something from here, and then all of a sudden you have a whole new platform, an avenue you can go down just because of a few people's speeches. It's pretty amazing, and the connections you make.
Exactly. Well, once again, sir, thank you so very much. And thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to be doing more interviews, so keep looking out. There's going to be tons of more interviews from folks who are here at Gun Rights Policy Conference 2018. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We appreciate you guys being a part of the Firearms Policy Coalition. We are the home in the fight for civil rights. Got to use them or you're going to lose them. You guys take care.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.